Free Skaro! Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 899. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
Chris is fighting through a bit of a cough right now, a bit of a sore throat. That's a good old fashioned, honest sore throat. None of this COVID nonsense. Yep. Thankfully,
it's real Coca-Cola, not that fake news stuff.
Yeah, it's a throwback.
So long as the 4 COVID tests I've taken have not been lying to me anyway.
That would be a remarkable coincidence if they all were negative. But
well, that's how the Bill Gates chips get you.
That's old.
That's true. Fair. I'm stupid. Don't forget stupid.
Yeah, stupid. I'm not even sure I can comment on that, Warren. I'm sorry. That was so dumb. Oh,
it was very dumb. That's the whole point. Yes, that's kind of the joke.
I know. Like, I was just like, man, that almost like, I don't want to remember those days. It's funny. I was in a grocery store, as I want to do these days, and I was just thinking, like, I forget how these things worked in March of 2020. Like
panic. That's how it worked.
Like, did they close down for a bit? Did they ever close? Were they ordered to remain open at like, I think 10 people at a time? Where like, I honestly, like, I'm already getting a memory haze from the earliest days of the pandemic.
Let me tell you, I do recall pretty intently. This is right before things closed down. So the weekend before, at least in BC, everybody, I was in a no-frills grocery store, which is not the best place to go during this sort of, and it was a full-blown panic. People were running around everywhere, grabbing everything. Of course, toilet paper was gone. It was lunacy.
Yeah. Happy days. But Chris didn't get his cold from going to grocery stores. You got a cold from going to the United Kingdom. Chris, you were gone last week because of that. How was your trip, apart from getting a cold, apparently?
It was ups and downs, I suppose, as with every trip.
Right.
For the most part, it was pretty good. There were some downsides, like tube strike on one day when we were trying to get around, and taking the bus was less than optimal because everybody else had to had to make the same adjustment, and that was not fun.
Right.
But for the most part, pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there stuff that you're allowed to talk about? I noticed that you all. I don't know what's public or not. I know that you. I saw it on social media that you met up with Andrew Smith again, writer Full Circle, and our good friend Andrew Smith. So you saw him.
Yeah, on our last full day there, actually. Met up with him and went out to, as a journey you've made as well, Stephen. Went out to Black Park where Full Circle was shot.
Yep.
So just walking around, and he's pointing out, oh, this is where this happened. This is where the TARDIS landed, and stuff like that.
It's all real. It's all real.
It's always good to see Andrew in the first place. But this was made it a little extra special.
I think that I don't know how many times he's been between you going and us going back in 2017, but I think that the 2017 trip, Erica and I went to Black Park with him. It was in summer. It was a little more closer to what it looked like on screen in Full Circle, and indeed on the Visitation. But I think that was like his second time that he'd ever been to Black Park, and I don't know if he's ever been back until you went with him now. And so I think that he's basically been to Black Park 67% of the time post Full Circle because nerds from Canada want to go see locations from Full Circle.
I got to go over and juice these numbers up completely involuntarily by
you
this
have
point.
To.
Like, no, don't take me back.
Yeah,
we got it.
I just go, oh, okay, fine, okay.
And if there's
the
one
River
person I can overpower and forced to do my bidding, it's probably an ex-cop with intelligence training. Yep, that's the guy.
He will take you down, right? He's a marathon runner too, and an ex-cop.
Yep. So clearly my weak self can probably convince him to do it. Sure. No,
Yeah,
maybe not.
you will not survive the trip to
No,
Black Park.
no, I will not.
I'm very sorry. Well, it's and you saw. I mean, you didn't just go there to go to Black Park. You went to see like some rock and roll concerts, some pop groups, some jazz combos, as I understand. Your
Yeah, straight blowing. Yeah, exactly.
blowing.
Jazz combos.
Courtney
Come on.
Pine. You saw Courtney Pine.
Courtney Pine in the flesh.
In the flesh, in the middle of a sunny day in late November, as seen in Silver Nemesis. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Met up with a bunch of friends there, including some other podcasters like those from Ferris Project and Phil from Who's He. And,
Right. Oh, you met Phil. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I met up with him. Second last day, full day there, something like that. And had a chance to meet up with Chris Mead from the Oodcast and met his incredibly gorgeous dog Radio. That is the cutest animal ever.
He is a cutie.
Picture of the little pup. Yeah, I want more of the pup, to be
so
fair.
adorable.
No offense to you and your picture of you three. I just think, can we get more of the puppy, please? Can we get a video of the puppy in motion? I want to see this. Little pup.
A few concerts, which was the main thing about the trip. Some Eurovision or Eurovision adjacent stuff included.
Ooh.
So nothing that you'll have any idea about, Stephen.
No, probably not.
Or Warren.
No. But was it because the UK is hosting Eurovision this year because it was going to be in Ukraine? But of course, a certain country has invaded Ukraine. Russia. They're called. I don't know why I'm protecting.
Jerkistan, I believe it's called.
Yeah, I should say the Russian leader. I'm not going to throw this all on the Russian people. We're in the 20th anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, and it's not like we threw every single American under the bus for what their government did. So I'm not going to do the same to the Russian people, some of whom might be against the Ukraine invasion. But because of that, Eurovision is in the UK this year. So is that a tie-in?
No.
Oh.
No.
After all that.
No, bands go on tour, man.
What? But they only, no, I thought they just did Eurovision and then sang their song and then ceased to exist. That's what I understood.
No, ABBA did that, I'm pretty sure.
ABBA's the only one. It was in 1973. People have to get over it. There's one band that found fame because of Eurovision.
By the way, the one thing I could say about Eurovision, not really, is that I highly recommend the ABBA Museum in Stockholm. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, and I'm not even a huge ABBA fan, but it was pretty cool just to see their whole history, including the helicopter from one of their albums.
There's also that ABBA experience thing in London as well, which I did not go to because not enough interest.
No.
And then also saw Stephen Moffat's new play, The Unfriend.
You did? That's right.
What's the review here, Chris?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it on the whole.
Okay,
it's very much, if you're at all familiar with Moffat's writing, it is very clearly written by Moffat. Mm-hmm. His turns of phrase and wordplay and things like that. But yeah, on the whole, it was enjoyable.
Theater, eh?
Don't think I ever need to see it again, but
wow.
Glowing review. Wow.
Well, for Chris, that's pretty glowing, actually.
That's true. I don't remember the last time I've seen him play. I'm not. I feel awkward at theater, especially. I remember going to a Fringe play here in Edmonton. Home of the world's second largest Fringe festival after the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, by the way.
Biggest in Canada too, right? I believe.
Oh, well, if it's the second largest
biggest in the world after Edinburgh.
I suppose. Yes. All right, fine.
Yeah.
Carry the one.
Yeah.
Shut up. I say that sincerely. Shut up.
Yeah. I just read that Warren is tweeting right now. So Warren was distracted. He was tweeting about TikTok.
Well, because we're talking about Eurovision. What the hell did I mean? Why would I even care?
We saw some play. It was like, it's a Fringe play. So it's in this tiny theater of 50 people. And I'm third I'm like the second last row, but third from the stage. It's that short. And and I'm feeling awkward because there's actors on stage or in the platform in the middle of the room, essentially. And I'm just like, don't make eye contact with them. Don't throw them off their game. Don't mess with them. And so I get anxiety from watching people and plays because I'm just worried that they're going to screw them up and I'm going to be the one that like triggers them to miss their line or fall or something like that. So
I have the exact opposite reaction. I went to see Zombie Burlesque when I was in Vegas last week for work, and I was in the second row, right in the middle, and I'm like, they're going to call on me, so I better have something ready to say. And not to go into too many details, but since it's a body review, they are asking people men in the audience, what the names of their appendages were, and so I'm like, and they were all very Midwestern and pedestrian. I'm not going to say what I said because it's not for this podcast, but it was a lot more obscene than what they were saying. Wow. So what you got to do is you got to prepare when you go to these things. You got to get ready.
You both had much more interesting weeks than I did.
Yeah, maybe.
Zombie Burlesque,
probably, yeah.
London, yeah. Cheap strengths, but that's right.
Well, if you want to go to a construction conference and watch people talk about construction, you're welcome to it.
Well, I like construction cranes. I'll say that.
You're hired.
Oh, good. Is there a panel?
Well, he likes cranes and there's Legos, so yeah.
I do. I have a Lego construction crane too. Of course I do. It's a funny old week here in Doctor Who land because so last week they did a teaser right before we recorded on Sunday morning, just warning me, and they mentioned something about Doom, Countdown to Doom or something like that, and we thought, oh, this is probably a tie-in to an audio book or something that's coming out in September, which seemed weird because that was a lot of build up for just, no offense, just an audio thing. But it's not. But here's the thing. It's the only thing in Doctor Who that happened this week, and it happened early Monday morning. So it's the oldest possible thing that happened. Doomsday is coming. Doomsday is a special multi-platform story, not called Time Lord Victorious, that will celebrate Doctor Who's 60th anniversary by introducing a brand new character, Doom, as played by Suze Kempner, on a 24-hour pursuit of the Doctor. So, what do you two think about this thing?
Chris, you want to go first, or shall I?
Sure, why not? I'll get it over with. I have no idea what's going on with this thing. I haven't read much about it, and I see that like there's a Titan comic, there's a Big Finish element, there's as you say, multi-platform, but the little minute or so long YouTube video is cheesy as all get out.
Right.
You bring up Time Lord Victorious, which I readily ignored back in the day, and
right.
I expect I'll be doing the same here.
Warren, your initial impressions on this?
I have nothing against Suze Kempner. She seems like a fairly charming comedian, and she might be cool in this role, but I kind of agree with Chris. This is quite the slapped together little preview. But having said all that, it's not quite this. This could be a cool story for all I know. It's that multimedia events, and maybe it's just because I'm old, don't really work for me. And I don't think they work for anybody, to be honest with you. The Time Lord Victorious, the overall impression of everybody seemed to be, what the hell was that? Like Krusty the Clown. Like nobody seemed to, including me. And I'm like, well, I could try to figure out, but it seems like work. And same with this.
Will they learn anything from that for this?
Who knows? But the only one I could think of that's ever really succeeded, unless you count comic book things where they put a million different comics tied in together, which I also never really got into because I'm like, I'm not reading Green Lantern 15 to see what Superman did in number 22. Is High Republic, the Star Wars thing, seems to be quite successful. And I think mostly the books, but other stuff too. People seem to be digging that, Star Wars fans. Mm-hmm. So whatever the secret sauce is for this, they seem to have sussed it out. I'm not sure the BBC has, and well, maybe they have. On the other hand, people get into Doctor Who because of Torchwood, Redacted. Maybe somebody sees this and they dig it. So if they dig it and they get into Doctor Who because of it, great. But I don't want to. I can't put the work into a regular TV show. So I'm certainly probably not. And again, this may not be Doomsday's fault. It's more on me. But I just don't want to put the effort in to try and figure out all the multimedia, whatnot. Finding it in the first place, then figuring out the whole story. It just seems like a lot of screwing around to me. And it's this weird holy grail that they've been chasing for 10, 15 years now. Not just the BBC, but everybody. And I don't know. It seems like mostly to pay your multimedia division and give them something to do. It's a cynical view on my part, but
also, how much access are you going to have to it? Like Doctor Who magazine's element, okay, fine, there's the digital version of that, but do you have to be in the UK to be able to get all the pieces to the puzzle?
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Well, I don't know. That's a good point actually, because certain stuff gets released in the UK a lot quicker than it does in North America or around the world. because it says
or cost effectiveness.
that too. It says Doomsday will kick off on Doctor Who digital channels later this year, followed by products from Doctor Who magazine, Titan Comics, Penguin Random House, Eastside Games, the new game that came out, Big Finish, and BBC Audio. Each telling an hour of. So are there going to be 24 adventures? Are they going to be, this is, are they going to cram a couple hours in? You tell you what, you slept for 3 hours, so we'll just use that. There's your 3-hour adventure there. I don't know. What I think is different than Time Lord Victorious is that there's a focal point to it. It's not just like, here's a drawing of David Tennant and here's a drawing of Daleks and they meet up and stuff. There's like, okay, there's a new character here who's called Doom for some reason, who you would think that she's like there to, like, she's an intergalactic assassin apparently, and she's looking for the Doctor, but she's not trying to kill the Doctor. So there's a bit of a hook there, at least, like what is going on with this character and stuff. There's an actual person to focus on, so maybe that changes things. I don't know.
I do appreciate the hat tip, I think, to the Lesser Order of Oberon, which I believe is a hat tip to Revolution of the Daleks.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
To Orsini, yeah. Quite
so
probably.
I complain about all this. I'm not keeping track of it. And then they drop in some dollop from 40 years ago. And I'm like, oh, yes, thank you. So am I any better? No.
No. I mean, they were assassins, so that makes sense, It's kind of cool.
I don't know. I mean, I think something like Star Wars, where you've got a giant marketing arm and can push this into people's faces all the time. But with here, I would bet this happens, and then we just don't hear a whole lot about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. I mean, I don't want to be those poo poo it. I know. Yeah. A certain old fan was very upset on Twitter, and did not like this children's stuff and wants more than 8 episodes of Doctor Who a year. You can probably guess I'm talking about.
Other children's stuff is what I want.
Yeah, I want the other different children's stuff. So I don't know who this is pitched to, really. I mean, she's a quirky performer, is Suze Kempner. And I don't know what, she's the physical embodiment of this character, but it's not like she's going to be performing in Titan Comics. Like, the only thing that she'll be actually performing on, I'm assuming, is probably the Big Finish and BBC Audio stuff. So, and the rest will just sort of be drawings. I mean, I complain about Marvel movies, for many reasons, but now these days is that incessantly, but like now these days it just feels like you have to hope you watched all of the WandaVision story and the other one that went this, because yes, we're going to reference those in the movies now. It's like, I used to just go to the movies and just sort of like happily watch these things without having to do any homework. And now it feels like, I hope it doesn't get to the point, well, I hope you picked up Titan Comics issue 858 and you bought the book for Random House, because then,
To be fair, right. Doctor Who has always had an element of that. We're just bathing in it. So if you're starting new at Doctor Who, I'm sure it's just as overwhelming, if not more so. It's got just as much history as Marvel does.
I suppose so. But it's all on TV, though. It's all one media.
That's still a giant block of stuff that you don't know about as a new viewer. So,
I mean, I know that in the Titan Comics they've had like, here's the story so far. Basically, they give you a little recap and what happened, and here's who the Doctor and Time team are in this issue and stuff, and gives you a little bit of background.
In Marvel's defense, in the movies at least, they do a fair bit of that.
Well, Doctor Strange, the second one, was a complete mishmash. I had no idea what was going on in that movie because I never watched WandaVision, so...
She's bad now. That's all you need to know.
I guess she's bad now. A lot of people were upset because she wasn't bad, but then she was again. I don't know. Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 coming to theaters in May.
It's got an otter in it. That's all I need to know.
It's got an otter in it. There's an otter in a movie now? They're making an otter.
Apparently.
Oh, man.
So it's an otter reason to see the film.
Oh, boo.
Crap. Well, Chris, you're not that sick because your humor's still intact.
Listen, I may say stupid things about the Edmonton Fringe, but that, my friend, was a war crime.
Anyway, Doctor Who Doomsday coming later this year. I don't know when that's going to be. You better hurry up because we're getting close to the anniversary here. We're only
I bet you summertime. Just
8 months away.
Keep those fallow times not fallow.
I suppose so. I wonder when they wrap it up. I wonder if it ties into the TV show at all. I mean, you don't go hire someone to be in a thing and then not have them be on a TV show,
That was my main question seeing this is like, is RTD involved, or is this something that was just kind of lying around beforehand? They have to get out the door. Like, how does this work?
You know what? I'll not that this is reliant on anything else, but every other little bit of media promotion. So, Russell has sort of posted on his Instagram some tie-in or something, or sharing a trailer or a picture, or there are a bunch of emoji and stuff like that. And I don't think I saw any of that.
I don't think so either.
This time I'm just delaying. No, I'm just looking at his Instagram feed right now, and no mention of it. So I don't know. I don't know if this has anything to do with him, or if he just sort of greenlit it, or
and that's not a reflection of quality either. It could be good.
No,
they just were working on it for a long time. Who knows?
Yeah, this feels more BBC than Disney Plus. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Which is why I kind of like the cheesy YouTube with the green screen.
A little bit, just like, oh, this feels like home now. Yeah. Anyway, we will wait and see what happens with this in the weeks and months to come. So that's our news. That's our news for this whole week.
That's it.
Yeah, we do have a Lennie Mayne Miniscope Part 2 coming up, where we talk about the Three Doctors and the Hand of Fear. But let's kick off what we do every week, at least until probably November 23rd, once we've talked about everything that's happened in Doctor Who history for 1.5 years. We'll probably retire it. But until then, we kick off the Timelash on this most important day in Doctor Who history, March 26, for two reasons. One, there's other reasons that maybe we'll get to, like the Ark Episode 4 broadcast this day in 1966.
Yes, clearly.
March 26, 2005, of course, the debut broadcast of Rose to 10.81 million viewers, or however many it was. 18 years ago, folks. New Who is 18 years old. That's why I call it Modern Who.
It can vote now.
It could vote. It could
and drink in Alberta.
I don't know what is even the drinking age in the UK. I don't actually know.
18.
Is it actually 18?
It's Europe. I mean,
it's 12.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it's a faded.
Let's be honest here.
It's a soft launch. Yeah, drinking is a
flexible.
soft launch when it comes to UK. Anyway, 18 years. Quite a moment. Quite a thing. Doctor Who coming back. And it's never gone away. It's like, that's amazing when you think about it.
Sort of, kinda.
Yeah, like we are now 8 years away from it tying the record of the original series. Being on.
Gravy.
I know, it's madness. The big thing that happened though, that exact same day in history, 60 years ago, March 26th. On the instructions of new BBC head of drama Sidney Newman, head of serials Donald Wilson convenes a meeting to begin development of a science fiction series to fill a perceived hole in the BBC's Saturday evening program. Big old focus group meeting, a business meeting, Warren. Raw business happened this day. And at the end of that meeting...
Original title, Old Man, Daughter, and Box.
Oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yep. And the rest, as they say, is history. So there.
I enjoy 1964.
What happened in 1964?
David Whittaker is forced to defend Part 3 of the Keys of Marinus against charges of plagiarism levied by Robert Gould. First of all, I read Robert Gould as Robert Goulet, which would be great.
Too.
Secondly, I immediately thought of him in the Trial of a Time Lord court, which is just a court they have lying around in 1964 in my headcanon.
Right. Or maybe the court as seen in episode 6 of the Keys of Marinus. They just had the set ready. So just tell you what, you just want to come here? We got a set already. I got a
He's
silly
put on
hats.
trial by the Vord themselves.
The Vord, yeah. Yeah.
They need to come back. We need the Vord again.
I'm mildly surprised we haven't had televised Vord. I know they've been in comics and Big Finish and
in audio.
Like
They're great in audio. They're just Andrew Smith, the aforementioned Andrew Smith.
Yeah.
They were just complete scumbags. They're great.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, and I mean, if anybody could have a birthday on March 26th, given the historic events that happened that day, of course it's Barry Letts, born March 26th, 1925. So he has been tied to Doctor Who for his life and beyond. Good old Barry Letts. We move on. March 27th. Recording for Keys of Marinus took place in Lime Grove, with a picture of a Vord on it. So how about that?
With a pitched battle in the background over plagiarism.
Very exciting. What else happened? 1974, Robert Banks Stewart is commissioned to write Terror of the Zygons.
Hooray!
Good story. 2006, Mark Gatiss submits a storyline called The Bogmen.
Sure.
March 27th,
Is it a sequel to Full Circle?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. Chris, when he's more of full voice, would usually fill us in on what it's about.
I
But
can
First World War.
yeah,
Dr. and Martha are implicated in the death of Joseph Breen, curator of the National History Museum.
Oh, wow. That's a story. All right.
yeah, it kicked around until 2009. You thought perhaps it might be made, but nope. No, it was replaced by Fires of Pompeii, James Moran's Fire from Pompeii in Series 3. So, for various reasons. So, anyway, also you're gonna say something there, Warren?
I was just gonna say, as far as Pompeii, the reason Peter Capaldi became the Doctor later, or just coincidental that he happened to be in it and then later he was a Doctor?
Coincidental, because I'm pretty sure Moffat had Capaldi in mind for Doctor Who way back when, even before.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Before Matt Smith. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like he had Capaldi in mind for the Doctor because he was searching for older actor to play him. I'm not saying he was specifically trying to court Capaldi to audition and take the role, but then Matt Smith.
No, but it makes sense.
Anyway.
You're right.
Yeah. Also, 2008, Neil Gaiman is offered the opportunity to write the Doctor's wife. 2008. So.
2008. Wow.
I know, 8. Golly, that's like
2011 when it went out. So
that's right.
That seems like a long time ago. Well, it is a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, he did have to rejigger it because by the time he came to writing it, Amy and Rory were companions, and not like Donna, or maybe I don't know would have been Donna, I guess, by the time of the thing.
Yeah, I think it would have been Donna. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So there, bunch of modern stuff happened that day in history, March 27th. We move on to March 28th, the debut broadcast of Marco Polo, Mighty Kublai Khan, Episode 6 on BBC TV.
I like how they specify it's BBC. Oh, BBC TV, and not
BBC TV.
ABC.
No, well, certainly
Spokane.
not BBC One, because BBC wasn't even a thing back then. It wasn't even a thing. Don't remember when that happened.
When was 2? When did 2 spring into motion?
2 was 1965 or 4, I think it was. I think it was 64. I think they kicked off.
Same year as this.
Yeah, like the first
April
15
20th,
minutes.
64.
There we are. And like the first 15 minutes were like they had an audio problem, so it was completely silent. And
television.
yeah. BBC Two went to color first. It was more of a test ground for the main thing. So I think they went to color in 68 or 69. I can't remember that. But so, yeah. And then Torchwood aired on 3, right? BBC 3 and then BBC 2 and then BBC 1 finally for Children of Earth. Anyway, they went HD first as well before BBC 1 as a testing ground before they got it up and running. So Torchwood was made in supposedly HD before Doctor Who was.
Now remember, everyone, HD is in fact the devil's work, so let's put it on here before we put it on our pristine champion, BBC 1.
It's true. Happy birthday, Nick Frost, famous for playing Santa Claus in that awesome Christmas special Last Christmas, and nothing else. He's been in nothing else.
I would like to pop in here and pimp a book called You've Got Red on You, which is the definitive tome on the making of Shaun of the Dead. And they talk about Nick Frost and how it's quite good. And it talks about how Nick Frost, like how Spaced and Asylum, which is a show that Edgar Wright did before with what's his name? Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and the rest of them. Right. And Nick Frost was just kind of like a funny stand-up comedian they were all friends with, and they all kind of palled around in the same flat in London. And then he just kind of fell into being an actor. And then arguably he's a pretty damn good one now. So
interesting.
Don't forget he also did that the Attack the Block film with Jodie Whittaker.
Yep.
That was his only other work.
I saw that like in the last year, and I forget that he was in it. I know that Daniel Boyega was in it.
I didn't mind the movie, but I forgot he was in it too.
John Boyega was in it, and Jodie Whittaker, obviously. But what was he in Attack on the Block? Where was he? What was his character?
He's definitely in it. But I don't remember. It's been years since I saw it. I did remember seeing.
Always sitting on a couch or something. Was he a drug dealer?
Yeah.
You're right.
There we go.
But the thing about Attack the Block, much like Dread and other movies of it, because they use one setting very, very well, I thought. They use their lack of a budget to good effect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good little movie, that one was. March, what are we on? March 28th here. March 28th, the death of Patrick Troughton, sadly, at a convention in Columbus, Georgia.
of which no more will be said.
We'll just leave it at that. Two of the three actors of regular Doctor Who. That's my way of not including like John Hurt, who played Doctor Who in one episode, but died in the States for what it's worth. Death fans, John Pertwee died in Connecticut on May 20th, 1996. Fans of death, tracking deaths everywhere. Well, two of the three doctors died in the States, so there you go.
I never want to meet these fans. They sound pretty unpleasant to me.
No. Anyway, let's move on from this dark day in history to March 29th.
Yes, please, let's.
Yeah, this is exciting. March 29th, 1963, following on from that meeting that they had on March 26th, an idea for a science fiction series called The Troubleshooters is delivered to BBC head of drama Sidney Newman, who asked for substantial revisions. First off, the name The Troubleshooters, which is...
I immediately read that, and a series of Ron Grainer horns happened in my head.
The Troubleshooters.
The Troubleshooters.
Starring Gerald Flood. Yeah, it's like... Troubleshooters, of course, became Doctor Who. Because there's a bunch of... There's a great documentary that is almost all just talking heads and slow scrolls of official BBC documentation on the beginning box set.
Otherwise known as catnip for you.
Yeah, it's great. It tells you everything you want to know, and it's fascinating. I watch it at least once a year because I watch An Earthly Child on November 23rd, and then I watch that documentary, and I love it. I love learning about it.
You are a special boy.
I know. Why watch all
I'm not saying that in a bad way. No. You are a special boy.
Why watch all the TV shows, Warren, and you just watch one lots of times? That's my...
I can't argue with any of that.
It's my philosophy. Yes, because as you said before you're recording, hey, why not watch Star Trek Next Generation again? That seems like a good idea.
I did. Also, I'd just like to say, just so I get it out there,
right.
We were talking about a black and white still, and I decided that using glass is now known as GSO.
Glass separation overlay.
Glass separation overlay.
Yeah.
It's in the canon now.
Jean-Pierre. What else happened? March 29th. Debut broadcast of Genesis of the Daleks, episode 4. That's always good. Here's a fun thing. Following John Pertwee's objections to her casting, this is in 1973, March 29th, April Walker's contract to play a new companion, Smith, is canceled. But they paid her out. They paid her out the whole year. April Walker was paid a whole season's worth of salary to not be in Doctor Who. So, good for her.
Living the dream.
Nice work if you can get it. If you were an aspiring actor, but we're a massive fan of Doctor Who, how would you feel? Either or question. Would you rather have been paid to not be in Doctor Who or not paid to be in Doctor Who? There's one. That's one to ask Toby Haydock, actually. You know, you always wanted to be in Doctor Who. What if he was paid? Here, I'll give you a year's contract, but you can't be in it. Well, we'll see. What else we got here? Anything else jumping out of you for March 29th? What happened in 1980?
Jack Gardner is commissioned to provide a storyline for the Dogs of Darkness. I was a good internet detective because I know Chris has got voice issues, so I went and looked it up, and what I found on Wikipedia is precisely nothing. It's just says a scene breakdown for a 4-part story. It was still under consideration in April 1981 when he was asked to expand the Dogs of Darkness into a full script for the 5th Doctor for season 19. But it doesn't say what it's about other than dogs at night. So that's pretty much it for the Dogs of Darkness.
That's it. Jack Gardner. I don't know that name, but then I don't know any names unless they actually wrote for Doctor Who. So who knows?
Including your wife. Who are you again? Did you write for Doctor Who? No? Well, the hell are you?
I don't know who you are then. What's going on here?
Why are you in my apartment right now? What's going
on? March 30th. Let's move on to March 30th. See, if I mention Chris coughing a few times, I don't have to edit them out afterwards. Which I just did because poor Chris is coughing. Well done, Chris. We're almost through this.
We can do it.
Yeah,
we have faith.
Do know that the big gunfight at the OK Corral was shot in this day in history, March 30th. 1966 at Ealing Film Studios. Very exciting. The gunfighters. In fact. Yeah, very historic.
Historical.
That's debatable, but
yes.
Yeah. The ongoing saga of the Doctor Who TV movie continued in 1993, March 30th, when Tony Greenwood, head of BBC Enterprises, advises Phil Siegel that he no longer feels that a Doctor Who co-production is possible. 93, so that took another 2 and a bit years to finally hammer out.
Oh, well.
Here's a big one. March 30th. I remember this. 2005. The BBC announces that Christopher Eccleston will leave Doctor Who after the one series of Doctor Who.
That was a bit of a gut punch.
And the way they did it, too, obviously raised some hackles, or heckles as well.
Hackles.
Hackles.
I guess so. You're right. Heckles.
Heckles, too. Heckles for Eccles. Yeah, that was a weird and a dark time. It felt almost appropriate for Doctor Who fans. Thinking, oh, here you go. It's been renewed for 2 seasons, but Doctor Who is quitting. So.
I'm trying to remember how I felt about that, because at the time we hadn't been strengthened by 18 years of new Doctor Who. We had just been given this glorious gift, and all of a sudden, so of course we must have reacted as, oh yeah, of course. Why would anything be good?
Yeah. Yeah,
I can't believe you didn't make a Mr. Huckle joke there.
That's kind of what I was leaning towards, actually. Huckle, from Terror of the Zygons.
I was going to say, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, so Terror of the Zygons, Warren. Obviously, you haven't watched Doctor Who
I'm a dum-dum.
a billion times each episode to know
Apparently
this.
not.
Listen, I'm starting to watch Timelash tonight as we record this, and
What the hell is wrong with you?
I've seen Timelash
Sorry to hear that.
way more times than I've seen any other Marvel show.
Why don't you watch Timelash and Yellow Jackets concurrently? I'm sure that'll be great.
Sure. It's the same.
Which is the more horrific show, like in terms of sheer horror on screen?
I have no idea what Yellow Jackets is about. I just thought it was about a basketball team called the Yellow Jackets, and no, I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. It's about wasps.
And you never will.
No,
and you never will.
Never will. No, it was a weird time, that Eccleston announcement, because the BBC sort of concocted their own reasoning for it. Didn't want to be typecast or something like that. Like it was some weird, and Eccleston never said that at all. And so there was a lot of bad blood between Eccleston and the BBC that
remains to this day, maybe.
A little bit. I think time has healed certain wounds and stuff like that. But I don't know. He's back now, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, he's big finishing it up, so he doesn't hate Doctor Who.
Yeah. 2013. Yeah. Do you have the strength to read that,
No.
Chris? No. Doctor Who magazine reveals that David Tennant, Billy Piper, and John Hurt will all appear in the Doctor Who 50th anniversary special. Hurt's role is later revealed to be the War Doctor.
Can I, my love for the War Doctor, but I just say all 3 of those people are portrayed, like, Moffat does a great job of putting them where they need to be, doing what they need to do, and especially the fact that it's not Rose. I thought that was a brilliant move on his part.
Yeah, and, they only share literally one quick shot together, which is great. David Tennant and Billy Piper,
Billy Piper holding her own against John Hurt. We got to, raise a hand to the sky for that one. Like, that's no mean feat. Being basically the only person talking to John Hurt for most of this show. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yep, she was she still is an underrated actress, but at the time of her casting, we thought, oh, this stupid teenage pop star at Doctor Who, what is this nonsense?
Yeah. And then holding her own against John Hurt. No easy task. Arguably better than the other 2 doctors. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're not ranking them. We don't have to rank them.
No, but equally well, let's say, sure.
Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. On to March 31st, the birth of Michael Hart, director of The Space Pirates, born 1930.
Why don't you watch that and Yellow Jackets together?
Maybe I will. Maybe I will watch the recon of The Space Pirates right next to the Yellow Jackets and see which one I pay attention to more.
Oh, I can guess which one you'll pay attention to more.
See if they sync up at all.
What if they did? That's an internet conspiracy for you.
I know. 1977, Terrence Dix is commissioned to write Horror of Fang Rock to replace a Vampire Mutations. So here you go. Tell you what, we're not going to use that script you sent in, Terrence. Could you quickly do up something set in the lighthouse? And he goes on to write one of the most iconic Doctor Who stories of all time.
It's great. Again, restrained. It's got one set. There's not much you can do with it. You got a rutanning around.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's all you got. It's great.
It is so good. Horrifying Rock is just amazing. Just amazing. That all happened in 1977. Of course, Vampire Mutations went on to be made as State of Decay in season 18. That same season that featured Full Circle. And on March 31st, Andrew Smith is commissioned to write the final 3 episodes of Full Circle. The first one impressed him so much that Big Finish contest winner, Blue Peter contest winner, Andrew Smith, who was 12 at the time that he wrote Full Circle, was commissioned to write the next 3 episodes.
That is not accurate.
He's closer to 12 than he was 30. He was 17 when he wrote that damn thing.
Okay, fair enough.
What a prodigy.
But also, I'm kind of hoping Big Finish was around in the early 80s.
That would be amazing.
Well, it kind of wasn't Gary Russell doing cassette tape stuff, so maybe it was. Kind of. The beginnings of it were sort of floating around at the time.
Maybe. I thought it was in the 80s that they were doing that.
Maybe a little later.
Yeah, a little later.
I'm creating my own fan in here.
A little bit indeed. And of course, this made Warren. This is where Warren will go back in time to stop something from happening. March 31st, in 1987, Malcolm Cole is commissioned to write the final 2 episodes of Delta and the Bannermen. Warren flies back in time to put a stop to it.
I mean, it's a legitimate use of giant physics miracle. Sure, why not?
I suppose so.
And what do you use this time machine for? Oh, I'm going to murder somebody. Wait a minute. Who did a TV show that was about to die anyway?
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir?
Now, hear me out. I'm justified in this. All right, let's wrap this up. April 1st, April Fool's Day. Remember that holiday? Oh, God, I'm so happy that it's no longer a thing. Because we don't really do much with it. And we won't be doing much with it there. When is April 1st... it's on a Sunday.
It's a Monday, isn't it?
Oh,
is it?
God.
It's Saturday.
It's Saturday.
Even better.
Thank God for that. Okay, so yeah, we're not doing an April Fool's episode ever again, folks. If we did in the first place. 1965, though, the BBC announces April Fools that William Russell and Jacqueline Hill will be leaving Doctor Who in June. Boo! I like them.
Wacky.
Yeah. But they left. London, 1965. April Fools, Anthony Ainley is contracted for Trial of a Time Lord, segment 4. That being Ultimate Foe and stuff, which is good in. April Fools, Macra Terror is, there is no thing as Macra. That's the April Fool's joke. Episode 4 is broadcast April 1st, 1967.
1971. Day of the Daleks commissioned. Still no Daleks.
Still no Daleks. Still known as the Ghost Hunter. April Fools, the Daleks are in there. That's what Louis Marks.
That actually is kind of an April Fools.
That's exactly it. Yep, April Fools. So there you go. That's it. Chris is poor Chris has gamely powered through this mercifully short
thank you, Chris.
episode news recording after his trip to the UK. You probably can't see out the window right now, Chris. There's a massive snowfall in Edmonton. It's spring in Edmonton, baby. It's sunny 1 hour and then completely blocked out by snow the next. So
I'm laughing in Vancouver, which means it's raining.
I know. It probably is. So without further ado, folks, let's do our second of 2 parts talking about Doctor Who director Lennie Mayne in the Miniscope.
Just as I thought. A miniscope. Now this is outrageous. Who is responsible for this device?
I'll tell you who is responsible. It's Lennie Mayne, who did not direct Carnival of Monsters, but he did direct the story that came just before it, which is The Three Doctors. He also directed The Hand of Fear. And it is those 2 stories that we will be discussing on the second half of our Lennie Mayne Miniscope. Last time we did the 2 Peladon stories. These ones are slightly different, although they do both feature Rex Robinson. Yep. Who also, of course, was Gebek in The Monster of Peladon. So the Rex Robinson hat trick is achieved with this here Miniscope. 3 Doctors, Hand of Fear, I watched them both because that's what I do. I can't remember which one he is watched which. Who watched the 3 Doctors?
That would
Chris.
be I.
Oh, the 3 Doctors. Well. What are your impressions of the 3 Doctors directorial wise there, Chris?
Not much.
No.
Not much.
Okay.
I don't know.
I had four notes. I wrote down 4 notes for what it's worth for the 3 doctors.
I started part 1 of this miniscope by saying I wanted to call him Lennie Plain.
He did
and
that
that's
last
really
week.
not that fair for at least Cursive Peloton, because there's some cool stuff in Cursive Peloton. 3 Doctors is a hell of a lot more straightforward. It looks like, as far as like how shots are composed and there's I mean, I think the only thing that impresses me about three Doctors anymore is Stephen Thorne's performance, but I think you probably would have gotten that regardless of who directed.
Or if you would have got it in the Hand of Fear as well. But which really throws it into sharp relief when you're seeing basically the same performance in 2 consecutive stories the way we were watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like there's some bad stuff in there. Like there's some horrible like CSO fringing and stuff when they're thrown into the cell in Omega's palace. And, but by the same token, there's like cool shots, like when Omega takes his helmet off and you see like through his vaporized body, looking at Troughton and Pertwee, and that looks cool.
Yep. Good effective use of CSO. It's funny. I was listening to Toby Haydock's podcast, the Patreon version of where he's talking about 3 Doctors relatively recently, as we record this, and he considered it to be a bit of a sloppy production. He didn't think the set design was very good. He thought it was kind of like light entertainment. I think maybe the set designer had more of a background in that sort of thing, and so maybe the sets weren't as impressive for Toby's liking. I can kind of see that. I think there's a Omega's monitor is very, very, you can see the edges of the TV that's basically through this little, Perspex bubble.
Tell me a monitor where you can't, though, like, honestly.
Yeah. So, that was a bit iffy. But, and they can hear like the people walking off the set when they're walking through the singularity thing. Like that's an unfortunate thing too. Anytime you sort of watch a BBC studio set with a rostra, which is basically made out of like, hollow wood, and you hear people like clamping around on it, it's tough. They would dub that out in a film production. Can't do that in a TV production unless you want to spend a lot of time.
Here's where it went south for me when I was watching it the first time. You're like, oh my God, there's just more than one Doctor. This is all cool. Units doing their thing. And then the Jail Guards show up and go, yeah. And I'm like, oh, so this is what we're doing. We're doing balloon monsters. Oh, all right. I guess that's where we're at. Sure, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're aware of the actor's name. I am not the Holy Moses guy.
I don't know who that is. Holy Moses, what's that though? Yeah. Played Corporal Palmer, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think Palmer might have been somebody else. I can't really
remember
at this point.
It's an iconic line, though, damn it. So
the 3 Doctors, over and above the fact that it brings back Troughton and Hartnell, you get other niceties like Benton and the Brigadier making their first visit inside the TARDIS. And the Brigadier
and the space, as far as I know.
And the Brigadier thinking that the Doctor's funneling unit funds to have created the TARDIS interior,
right?
Dimensional shift. That's cute, but nothing to do with Lennie Mayne.
No, I love the story because seeing Troughton again and just the spectacle of it all, I guess, the 10th anniversary, that sort of thing. But I mean, and there's an impressive glass shot. I thought actually the doors to Omega's castle, if you will, fortress in the middle of the quarry, like the doors are there, but the rest of it is a glass shot. And I think it's quite impressive. Actually, it's really well done. And there's another bit where when they do the contact scenes, contact, they're really fast, switching between 2 or sometimes 3 cameras. You would think, oh, maybe that's a special thing. No, it's just the switcher going, basically tapping 2 fingers really quick. Impressive. I mean, good job, switcher, for doing that. The cardinal mistake in this story, and it rings on down through the years, is that every single shot of Hartnell, oddly enough, except for the very, very quick shots of the little contact scenes, every shot of Hartnell is a shot of Hartnell on a screen, and that damn reflection from the studio lights and everything else, like the shots of the TARDIS monitor are not good. It just you're shooting a TV screen, and you can see the reflections of people looking at it. You can almost see the reflections of the TV studio. Why didn't he use the actual original film of Hartnell for some of these shots?
Yeah, just cut to it.
Just cut to it. We never got it. We never got a good look at the first Doctor in the whole story, and I think that is a crucial failure.
In Monster of Peladon, I mean, the same thing gets done, but to way better effect.
It does.
Season later, but the one in Monster, I mean, I can't remember because I haven't watched it in years. But was that not in black and white?
No, Monster was always in color. Actually, I think Monster.
No, the monitor shot. Was that color?
Yeah, it wasn't black and white. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was black and white.
Yeah, so I thought you meant the story. Sorry. Yeah.
No. I have no idea if the black and whiteness of the monitor made a difference, or if it's just the fact that in Three Doctors the monitor's up high and it's a lot lower in Monster.
And it's closer. Let's face it. I mean, the monitor in the TARDIS set, which I love the TARDIS set, but that monitor is like this little 14-inch TV mounted way up top there in the back of the set, so a camera couldn't.
That was the height of technology, sir, in 1972.
That's at least standard. It could be just down to schedules or something. It could be maybe they didn't have time to develop the film. Maybe maybe this is what they could work with the time they had.
Oh, well, I know that they were working up against it a little bit because this was shot second in the order. They shot Carnival of Monsters, which aired after this, but they did that at the end of the previous season. So they shot Frontier in Space and then this because of Patrick Troughton's very busy schedule. I think they were shooting this literally a month before broadcast, which is cutting it tight for 1970s Doctor Who. But still, I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like it's interesting because thank you for mentioning Monster of Peladon there, Chris, because there are similar shots of shooting a monitor, and it's almost like just at the time TV visual shorthand was. If you want to show people looking at a monitor, you show their view of the monitor, which means you don't just show what's showing on the monitor, you shoot the monitor. You know what I mean? And maybe it would have confused people. I'm going to tie this into sports TV, if you will.
Would. It's about time.
Broadcast, like TV production, so you might appreciate this a little more. But it's funny watching, as I do, TV, like hockey broadcasts from the 1990s. And you never sort of break the plane when you're shooting cameras, especially in sports, but also just in TV and everything. But there's in hockey, there's your main follow camera on the one side of the rink, and all the cameras are basically on the one side of the rink. Except in the 90s, they start putting one on the other side. And whenever they cut to that for replays, there would be this big thing that said reverse angle, because back then people were like, "What is going on? We just saw the same angle, and now it's flipped. We don't know what's going. Oh, it's reverse angle." Now we don't do that. And I'm wondering if just the viewers just got so used to that reverse angle that they don't need to be reminded that it's a reverse angle anymore. It's just another angle of a thing. We get it. Okay, it's from this angle. We get that. We don't need a big chyron saying that it's a reverse angle. I'm wondering if shots like this, or if a character's on a monitor and that's the only interaction we have is with someone who's on the monitor, then we have to shoot the monitor. We can't, if we cut away, it'll make it look like he's suddenly in the room or something. That'll be confusing. And I'm wondering if it's just that's how TV was at the time.
It could just be a broadcast standards thing. It's you can only use this kind of camera now. We're shooting for Netflix. Maybe that was what their procedures were. If we're the BBC, we don't do it that way kind of thing.
It could be. It just might be a dramatic way of telling things that is dated to us, but back in the 1970s was different, like jump cuts now, how are we going to tell if this guy gets out of his car and he has to lock the door and he has to walk into that building, and there was no cuts in those days. Nowadays, boom, he gets out of the car, door cut, boom, boom, in. And back in the 70s, the people were to watch, well, how did he get there? How did he suddenly jump in the middle of the scene all the way to the door? That makes no sense at all, TV was made different in those days, but the offshoot of that is that we don't get a good shot of William Hartnell in his Only Color episode, and it's really sad because we would have had some great looks of in his last performance ever, and the best we can get is basically a telesnap, even worse than a telesnap, a shot of a TV screen from afar. So that's my main complaint about the Three Doctors is just the way.
Mine is it's ramshackle as hell. But
yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's fun. It's more fun than Two Doctors.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I think it gets a lot of slack and a lot of forgiveness because of the nature of what it is, and it's the first time we have a multi-doctor story. Yeah, and of course more exploration of the Time Lords, because this is like I'm trying to think of Time Lord stories before this. Like, you've got that little bit of Terror of the Autons, you've got the War Games, and
Colony in Space a little bit. Yeah,
Colony in Space a little bit. Yeah.
But barely.
Yeah, I actually thought that set was quite impressive, actually. It felt very big when it probably wasn't.
It is quite weird to watch that, knowing all the Time Lord lore we know now, going back to it, even with just Classic Who, going back to that and going, this is what the Time Lords were? Yeah, okay, this looks like a grocery store. What the hell's going on?
I know, there's circles of paper, and at least they got the gowns, at least they got the robes going, you know?
And it's the War Games robes. And there was apparently people who were angry when Deadly Assassin established all this new lore because it sort of wiped clean all this other stuff.
The Deadly Assassin, the newly formed Doctor Who Appreciation Society ranked Deadly Assassin last in their season 14 poll because of how much it ignored previous Time Lord history, just to give you an indication.
Which to me is like people going, well, wait a minute, these Klingons in TNG look nothing like the ones in TOS.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's kind of intentional, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, 3 Doctors then, eh? Anything else you want to say about the 3 Doctors before we move on, Chris?
I had one positive thing to throw in there, and in the quarry at a few points, there's like the camera's up on a higher ridge looking down, which, you know, that looks nice.
Kind of some like oblique angles too, I thought, was kind of interesting. So just throw in that sort of like we're in a strange antimatter world kind of feel to it, you know? Or perhaps just to disguise the fact that it's in a quarry. That could be it too. But yeah.
I mean, hardly disguise, I'd say. But 3 Doctors is. I used to get really excited by watching 3 Doctors as a kid because it was. I liked it a lot back then.
Yep.
And it's not like I dislike it now. I do. It's got a lot of charm, and I love that. I love that Patrick Troughton is. Like, they've got the Doctors split up, at least for a time, so that Patrick Troughton can do his thing, and like he's got the reunion with Benton and Lethbridge Stewart, and can kind of be in charge there a little bit, and get a little, you know, go back to the glory days when he was the Doctor.
Right.
I love that for him, and I really, really, really wish that Hartnell was able to do more.
Yeah.
But you know, he was not doing so well, and things happened as a result.
Yeah.
Well, they did the best with what they could, really.
Well, did they, though? Did they, Warren? I refer to my earlier complaint of how they shot Hartnell. But
the people going out to his garage and shooting film, they did their best. How about that?
Yeah, they did. What a shame they didn't save that. I would have loved, you know, the original film rushes of Hartnell's one day shooting stuff on that, or even him in the garden there shooting the very last thing he shot was the first shot of him in the garden before the time scoop got him, so to speak. But yeah. Anyway, lots of 3 Doctors. Let's move on to Lennie Mayne's last story, The Hand of Fear. I think we did this one in the Miniscope for Bob Baker, Dave Martin, and found it kind of underwhelming. Or no, we did the commentary.
The commentary,
as I recall.
yeah.
It does drag if you're watching it with that in mind.
It's a strangely paced story in that it keeps like it. On purpose, it focuses its attention on different locations for each episode. It just makes for a strange viewing experience. But anyway, Warren, you watched this one. What was your yes?
Yeah, I did. And this is again, it's Mayne doing a lot with a little. I said that specifically because I have this whole thing at the beginning where they're on Atrios. Is that what it's called?
Castria, please.
Castria, of course, it's Castria. Sorry about that.
That's right.
And I go, well, there's Mayne does a lot with a little. However, this is still a guy in a blanket yelling. Because it basically is just a guy in a blanket yelling and screaming, or it's probably just a blanket. However, there's a tracking dolly shot, which I found quite impressive. I'm like, oh, wow, that's a tracking dolly shot in the midst of all this. I think that's in the quarry, if I'm right about that.
Yep.
Yeah,
the
and then
quarry
there's
shot.
cool stock footage of the rock exploding, which I've obviously
no.
Okay.
That,
All right.
So the BBC again, I read the info text. They basically, I think, funny thing, 2 different BBC productions sort of had an eye on this, because I think there was a different show. I can't remember the show. It eventually aired about a month before The Hand of Fear. And then this one. Both of them needed a quarry explosion for their show. And they knew that this quarry basically did a weekly explosion thing to blow up some more rocks so they could work. And so they timed it. So it wasn't specifically made by the BBC. But Lennie Mayne, and he did this for a shot in Ealing for the Monster Peloton too. He put a camera inside a protective like plastic box, like a clear, like a what's the word I'm looking for? Plexiglass. And so the shots of that's an actual shot. So basically the camera was going to get buried, but it was protected by this thing. So they filmed it like from many different angles. So no, that was actually shot. It wasn't exploded by, but it was shot by Lennie Mayne and his camera crew for that. So yeah, that's a proper Doctor Who explosion there, Warren.
Mm-hmm. There's some cool shots too. There's some cool creative shots. There's where Sarah's going into the plant. It pans up to a mirror, and then you see her in the mirror going towards the plant. That was a cool shot.
Yeah.
There's this fisheye lens effect, which I'm not sure if it's a fisheye lens or they're just screwing around to make it look like a fisheye lens.
I think it's a fisheye.
It does work. It does distort it properly. So and it really adds to it. And it looks like something from The Prisoner, because it's the kind of thing Prisoner loved to do.
Yeah.
And there's lots of shots of the cars from below. Like there's some interesting off kilter stuff.
Yeah. When I can't remember his character's name, but Roy Purcell's son would in the quarry after the explosion, and he's running over to see if the Doctor and Sarah are okay, and the camera's like placed on the ground, but with the lens fully like zoomed out basically, and so the guy runs over the camera. It's a very effective shot. There's some of that there. Yeah, Liz Sladen is so good when she's possessed.
She's really good in it, yeah.
She's so good. And just especially on film, as you were saying, like, the sort of the POV, the handheld stuff. Well, you don't see a lot of handheld film camera in this time period in Doctor Who. But whenever there's someone sort of infected or possessed, rather, by Eldrad, like even Dr. Tyler later on, it is Dr. Tyler. No, I'm calling him Dr. Tyler because that was his character in Three Doctors. Rex Robinson. Just call him Rex Robinson. When he's wandering up the staircase with the Doctor about to grab a foam wrench to kill him, and they use like sort of handheld shots there too. And there's like the quick little shots of them in the car, and there's like the cameras like on the ground, the floor in the car, looking one shot up at Tom Baker and another shot up at Rex Robinson. Just some really interesting little film shots there, I thought. Well. What else do you have, Warren, there on your list?
There's a really great stunt where a guy falls. I think it might be Rex Robinson. Falls off the stairs. Maybe it's not Rex Robinson. I can't remember who it is.
It's Max Faulkner was the stuntman who did it in one take. Yep.
Yeah, really, they did a really good job with that, because I was like, that looked deadly. There's some good tension being racked up in the and also Critical is on the screen in the one true font, one true 70s font. There's also a cool phone call. I think I'm going to get these wrong because I never get actors right, but this is Rex Robinson talking on the phone.
I think it's probably Glyn John,
the administrator of the facility.
Yeah,
just talking to his wife on the phone, and it seems kind of superfluous, but it's also a really nice touch.
Yeah,
and I was wondering if that was something that I don't know if Lennie Mayne had anything to do with it or not, but it's well directed if he did in any case. Like it's just kind of humanizes the process of this crazy alien, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting sound design in episode 3 where all the stuff like the thudding in the background to the door, which Doctor Who doesn't tend to bother doing. Also, the second in command, the woman comes in and she's talking to him, the administrator, and he's just fondling a gun. Nobody seems to care, which I found sort of weird.
Right.
He says, "Damn it," because that's in the text. And I was like, oh, somebody's swearing at Doctor Who. Wow.
Yeah.
I love Eldrad's video effects with her eyes when she's zapping the planet administrator. Like, they're total cheeseball, but they're still a lot of fun.
The front axial projection is what they are. Yeah.
And Eldrad is very good at the spin, the dramatic Captain Kirk spin. Also, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, Eldrad 1, pretty damn hot.
And she, honestly, when you watch it, she's barely in it. She's in it for like, what? I'm trying to think. She's in it in episode 3 and then literally is pretty much dead at the cliffhanger of episode 3. She's barely in that whole episode. She's so
mostly it's the TARDIS back and forth. That's the interesting part with her.
It's such an iconic performance and look and everything, but she's only in it for about the sum total of one episode of Doctor Who. It's interesting how that sort of plays out. There's a scene where the doctor breaks in because Sarah has locked herself in the vault with the hand and everything, and she's sort of waiting there. And the doctor sort of like gets in through the like that little hatch or something, right? And the shot it sort of starts on a close up of Sarah, like on the phone or on the intercom or something like that, and then in behind, Tom Baker doing his own stunt propels himself out of the thing, and the camera sort of pulls back, and there's a two shot of them, and he gets up, and there's like smoke and everything, and it took like a couple takes to get right. In the camera script, it said in all caps, "Good luck to the cameraman," which I thought was awesome. It basically said, you know, here's what I want, but instead of like demanding, here, do this, you stupid cameraman. If you're a good cameraman, you'll get it right. He's sort of, you know, he's playful about it, and that just like when I hear that, like, and yeah, you know what? It's a nice, friendly challenge. I'll see your challenge there, Lennie Mayne. And I, as a BBC camera person, as not a surly Fisher-Price camera person like you have in your action doll.
Yes,
that
I have two different ones.
I can actually do this, and so I quite like that. So yeah, there's some interesting shots in this story.
My episode 4 notes are just kind of random bitchiness, really. But I do note that I want to know how in 1975 they pulled off that cool pixel screen when the former king is talking to him or the recording is.
Yeah.
That pixel stuff is really cool looking for 1975. And also the trap video effect where that sort of gas, which is a video effect, I think, it comes from above to trap Sarah. And that looks really cool. It really works.
Yeah. Done probably live in studio as they would do back then, you know?
The rest of this is just me complaining. I will never go over the combo of bad Abyss video effect and fabulous glitter log.
Right.
Also, that Abyss looks pretty damn jumpable. I do have to say the matte painting race banks and all the sort of fancier sets of the below layers of this kingdom do look kind of cool for what they are. I also wrote down here, I am unconvinced by the Scarf Gambit and Fall, and Eldrad 2 is a community theater nightmare.
As played by Stephen Thorne. Actually, I don't know how they did the shot of the Abyss with that, you know, it's kind of reminds me.
Yeah, I wonder about that.
It reminds me of the Abyss, quote unquote, in like the Keys of Marinus, where it's quite clearly like, you know, you just step across that thing and you get across it, but they have to disguise it by shooting half of it and half of it was really about 4 feet across. Like, because you see it from above, and I can't tell if they put a camera there or, and this is perhaps more likely, there's a mirror up in the roof, and they actually shot the mirror and the reflection of that.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
It's probably the way to do it. But it was done like as a take, like they mixed it in. It wasn't a specially shot thing. You could tell by the movements to Tom Baker carrying Judith Paris as Eldrad that it's the same take. It's, you know, so they're just cutting to another another camera just shooting up in a mirror, which I thought was quite impressive. So yeah, some impressive stuff.
And,
Chris, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, at the end, of course I got choked up with Sarah leaving. Of course I did.
It's
again for the umpteen billionth time.
Yep. And you know what? Actually, the good thing about that is that was shot on the penultimate day. Lennie Mayne did that so that they could focus on their performance without getting distracted by it actually being Liz Sladen's last day on set too, which I think was, you know, because it almost makes it sound like it's anticlimactic. Okay, we got a whole other day to do this before we say goodbye to Liz Sladen and stuff. But you know what? In the end, I think it comes out better. You get a less
I think you're right.
soppy performance, so to speak, when you're really focusing on the screen, on the scene itself. And it was like heavily rewritten by Robert Holmes, and then heavily rewritten after that by Tom Baker and Liz Sladen. So there's already some personal stakes going on in there, and I like that Lennie Mayne sort of let that breathe a little bit and made sure that the actors could give their best performances. You know. Chris, what do you think about the Hand of Fear? I know you didn't watch this one specifically for this, but you probably have memories.
Oh, totally. As we found out when we did the commentary for it, however many years ago that was, I liked it a lot more back in the day than I think I do nowadays. But yeah, my memories include Eldrad being around a hell of a lot more than she actually is, the Judith Paris form. I like the Stephen Thorne version. I like the big, bellowy, Brian Blessed-esque.
I don't know. I feel like he does that. I mean, he literally says, "I created this world" in the same tone as he does in The Three Doctors, which is hilarious.
Also, he's around about the same amount of time. He's just so damn loud. You forget that.
Right. He's there for like 10 minutes. Stephen Thorne's in that episode for like 10 minutes. Yeah. Anyway,
from like a story perspective, I like all the puzzles and stuff in episode 4.
mm-hmm.
That I dig that kind of stuff, and
right.
of course, as Toby Hidoku pointed out, that it's basically a clone of episode 4 of Death of the Daleks,
Which was later cloned in Pyramids of Mars and later cloned in Head of Fear, and
yeah. But anyway, the overarching memory obviously is going to be Sarah Jane's departure, and that doesn't get me like it gets Warren, I guess, especially since
and most of fandom. You're the weirdo here. Not
yeah,
me.
you're a cold-hearted bastard.
We got Sarah Jane back, so it's not.
So it's fine.
I love it. It's all an accounting table. It's a I don't know what the actual accounting term is, but like actuary. It's just like, this all balances out.
it is fine. I mean, not that anyone knew at the time that it was going to be that way, but as it turns out, it was fine. We got
Chris,
Sarah
you
Jane
can enjoy
Adventures.
this show any way you want. I shouldn't be criticizing it.
yeah, gatekeeping SOB.
Yeah.
But as far as like Lennie Mayne's contribution is concerned, I don't really have anything that stands out a hell of a lot. I like a lot of the shots of on Castria where you like see the seated figure like just sitting there not moving. It's kind of like creepy and stuff. And as far as whatever, was it an actual? What was the industrial place that they shot in?
A
Yeah,
power
it was
plant.
a-
That was a
actual
proper
function.
actual power plant, is what that
It
place
was a power plant.
It was a
Okay.
power plant playing a power plant. Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty
I
cool.
like the,
Not
I like the
nuclear
way
one,
the power
obviously,
plant
but yeah.
stuff.
No, yeah.
I like the way the power plant was used. Like they're going to different spots and stuff, and it could have been just like they obviously had access to more than just one area, and they were ready, willing, and able to use that extra access.
Yep.
But yeah, it's not a particular favorite, I guess. Curse of Peladon probably is my favorite Lennie Mayne story of the 4, if I had to pick one. And I think that would have been the same answer going into this as coming out of it.
I can kind of see that. I mean, I have a fondness for Three Doctors. I don't necessarily think it's great. I don't think that Lennie Mayne brings any of these down. That's for sure. If they're slightly off stories, I don't think it's his fault. And I think he might elevate it a little bit just because of the performances he gets from his actors. He's not the kind of visual director that maybe a Graham Harper or a Douglas Camfield is or anything like that. But I think he has his own sort of style to it. And that just might be the way he directs his actors and creates a pleasant atmosphere for people to perform in. Nothing's flat. There's no flat direction, I don't think, when it comes to Lennie Mayne stuff. But he is perhaps not the as visually dynamic a director as others. But that is perfectly fine. If everyone is trying to be like a Paul Joyce or a Paul Bernard every single week on Doctor Who, that sort of thing would be kind of a good old hat. And so sometimes competence shouldn't be shamed, basically. He's a competent director, and sometimes that is just what you need and what you want in Doctor Who.
If everyone is special, nobody is special.
Exactly.
Basically, from the BBC's point of view, we asked for this and we got it. Good, let's hire him again and again and again.
Yep. There's a reason they went back to him so many times. But alas, of course, he died in a boating accident in May of 1977. I don't know if Graham Williams would have hired him again. This Hand of Fear was one of his last last directing jobs. Let's face it, sadly. But yeah, if you watch the Looking for Lennie documentary, you can tell how loved that guy was and how little we knew about him actually up until they made that documentary. So. It's a nice look at Lennie Mayne, his life, and I hope that the past 2 weeks on this miniscope was a nice look into what he did for Doctor Who. Now the only thing we have to do, obviously because he died, we can say, "Hey, boy, I sure wish he would have directed more." He didn't have that chance, but this is the time on the episode where we select the next subject/victim. In the next miniscope, whenever that might be. Chris, do you have the randomizer ready and open?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Good. Begin the spinning of it now.
Even though it's completely academic, I would say
Right.
I would have no problem with Lennie Mayne coming back if he had the
Same here.
ability to do so. I'd be okay if he didn't as well.
Yeah.
He seems like a guy who would adapt to the changing styles of the time.
Yeah. Would have been interesting to see how he would have done with inflation in the 1970s, you know? Yeah. Anyway, let's see who we got next. Chris, stop.
Saul Metzstein.
Saul Metzstein, a surprisingly busy director in the 2 years time that he did Doctor Who.
A Town Called Mercy. What else did he do?
He did. I think he did 6 stories, 6 episodes in total. I think.
Okay.
Oh my goodness! Listen,
I'm looking it up.
I know we have to look it up.
Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
Right?
Town Called Mercy. Snowmen. Crimson Horror, Name of the Doctor.
Also, Pawn Life, for what it's worth, if we want to look at the Pawn Life.
I'm calling dibs on Name of the Doctor. I love Name of the Doctor.
Oh, that's right.
I might watch. I haven't seen that in a long time. I might watch that anyway.
In general, yeah.
But yeah, 5 stories: Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, Town Called Mercy, Snowmen, Crimson Horror, Name of the Doctor. Snowman I haven't watched in a very long time either.
No. It did quite well in the holiday special deathmatch not too long ago, so that'll be intriguing. Currently he's directing 6 episodes of Slow Horses, so he's still a very very working and busy director up until this very day. So, all right. The next Miniscope, Saul Metzstein, who appeared on this podcast when he was at Gallifrey 1, those many years ago, where I kept calling him Saul Metzstein. That's the last time I'll call him that. It's Saul Metzstein. He'll be the focus of the next probably at least 2 episodes on the Miniscope on Radio Free Skaro. So there you go. Everyone brush up. There's your homework. Saul Metzstein, Doctor Who, for the next Miniscope on Radio Free Skaro. Until next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Or in Vancouver.
And Chrissy in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com. Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro. Subscribe to us on iTunes and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.